All right, we're here with Jetsunma, Tenzin, Palmo, and we're talking about final words of advice. So, Jetsunma, if you were at the end of your life, what essential practice advice would you offer to students of the Buddha Dharma?
Well, of course, one never really knows what one will come up with at the time. But for at the moment, I think first that people should, ahead of time, settle their scores for this life. In other words, if they have been carrying along a lot of bad feeling about certain people or things which happened in their past or in their present time, a lot of resentment and anger still resurge inside them, then drop it. Let it go. And if possible, try to bring good feelings towards those people. Let them go. Otherwise, next life you're going to get stuck in it again. I mean, that's how we get trapped in these cycles. So clear that away. Let it go. It doesn't mean that, you feel that what they did was okay, but it's gone, it's in the past, and they had their own reasons for acting the way they did, even if very unskillfully. So that, let it go. And then the people around that we know or are with us, that we care for and we love, let them know that. Thank them. Say thank you, because really good companionship, as the Buddha said, is really one of the most important things on the Dharma path. And so therefore we should be very grateful and let others know. People say, oh, they know, but probably they've never spoken about it. And so if you find it embarrassing to talk about it, write a letter or do something, give them something that is meaningful to yourself and say, here, this is for you, to say thank you. Then I think, and also, of course, make a will, which again will clarify everything and be a will which everybody will be okay about, because so often when somebody dies, then the siblings or whatever are in conflict, and there's a lot of bad feeling going on. Don't do that. Leave it fair and equanimous, and everybody thinking, okay, thank you, that's enough. Then from a spiritual point of view, I mean, the important thing is to let go of our grasping, our attachment. The first thing we need to let go of is our identification with our physical being, with our body, thinking if the body dies, that's the end of everything, because of course our consciousness carries on, and that's what really counts. The body is ready to go. The consciousness is now freed up. So, that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Death is not a bad thing. Death is perfectly natural. Poor Death. He always gets such a bad reputation, and really, he's a kindness. Who would want to go on forever? And why can't we accept the fact that we come into this life, we live it the best we can, then we leave, and then we start again. As the Tibetans say, the body is like a guest room, like a hotel room. You stay in it, it's nice, it's comfortable, but it's not yours. And we have to leave at some point and go into another hotel. So, along with that, then as the whoever is dying and leaving, to tell them to let go of their attachment to the people and possessions which they have. None of this we can carry with us. The only thing we have is our consciousness, our awareness. That continues. Everything else goes. So don't hold on to something which you have to leave behind anyway. That's really not a good thing to do. And instead, either think of the object of one's devotion, if one has one. For example, Christians will think about Jesus or Mary or some saint that they particularly like. The Hindus will think of whichever Krishna or Shiva or their guru. Buddhists likewise will think about their teacher or about some aspect of the Buddha or bodhisattvas which is meaningful for them. But if we don't have anything that we particularly have heart-opening devotion to, then just to think of going towards the light and welcoming the light and not being afraid of it and seeing it as the ultimate refuge. And then relax. And what is interesting, you see, to my mind, the exciting thing about death is that now we are going to really find out what happens. Because everybody has their version of what comes next. Now we're going to know. It's like an adventure. So nothing to be afraid of. All the accounts of near-death experiences seem to make it sound really a very wonderful time. I know my own near-death experience was very joyful. And I definitely didn't want to come back into my burned out body down below. I really wanted to go with the beings of light. And many, many people have something like the same experiences. It's something joyful and dealing with love and light and all these kind of new agey sort of ideas, but it's actually true.
Yeah.
And so don't be fearful. Even His Holiness the Dalai Lama says the same. If you're a reasonably okay person, you've got nothing to fear. I mean, if you're really an evil-minded being who is sadistic and cruel and ghastly, yeah, I think you do have something to fear.
Yeah.
But most people are not like that. I mean, we have our good points and our bad points, but in general, we're okay. And so the next part of the story is not to be feared. It's to be welcomed, especially if we've been very sick and our body has caused us a lot of trouble. So why worry?
Yeah. So I want to pick up something a couple of things that you said. So the first stuff was about essentially making amends and forgiving people who've wronged us. Second thing, making sure people we love know we love them. Third thing, letting go of our body, our life, our attachments. So all of that is very logical. But sometimes I think people wonder how to let go. We're often told, let go, let go, let go. But often there's no instruction. How do you actually let go of your past? Like, how do you do that so you're not encumbered by it anymore?
Well, I mean, we could think of our past as like a heavy rucksack, which we're carrying along with us, which is all our attachments, both positive attachments and negative attachments. We're just as, if not more, attached to the negative than we are to the positive. And it's like to my mind, it's always like, as the Buddha said, you lay down the burden. And the burden is our rucksack full of resentments and, all the things all the problems with people and with situations that we've been carrying around with us for endless time. And so just visualize, like if you're climbing a mountain and you've got a big rucksack on your back, and then you get to a nice place and you can just put it down and relax, and you feel light, because what's the point of all this? We're just like we're scratching again and again at old wounds to make them bleed more. there's no point. And so, really, we could start by doing, I think the Buddha himself recommended practicing loving kindness and compassion, starting with ourselves.
Mm.
I mean, it's very interesting in the Buddha Dharma. It's very is very anti-ego, right? It's a big ego bashing Dharma. But to start with, we start with shamatha, the basic calming the mind, making it clear, cultivating our awareness, and then giving love and compassion first to ourselves. May I be well and happy. May I be peaceful and at my ease. May I be free from suffering. We make friends with ourselves, and we come to terms with ourselves and understand, we're friendly.
Mm.
And that includes, relaxing and letting go. And then love to those that we love, which is fairly easy, our family, our partners, our pets, whoever we love, wishing them well and happy and free from suffering. Then people that we are fairly indifferent towards, like our neighbors and our colleagues and whoever, never thinking whether these people would wish to be happy. Of course they do. And then those who have harmed us in any way or who we resent, wishing them also, because whatever they did is due to their own causes and conditions. We don't know what it was before, which they have gone through, which has caused them to act in a way which has hurt us. It probably hurt them too, actually. And wishing them well and happy, as well as then the whole world wishing. So if we stop now doing these kind of practices, then that will help us much more in the future when the time comes to, again, just let it go, let it drop. Let's not go into the next life still grasping at all these resentments and attachments. Let's go lightly into the next life.
Yeah, that's a beautiful idea. Go lightly. There's a little practice in our lineage, Nyingma lineage, where you recite a single R, the Prajnaparamita, the essence of the Prajnaparamita, and you do it on a kind of like an exhale, and you just fully sort of relax and kind of go into your natural state of relaxation. And so that's what I've always done when I'm trying to let go of something. Do the R, let go, and there's an instant kind of, like you described, like this, like, relaxation, but also there's a kind of love that comes with it. Because once you're unburdened, I think, my personal humble opinion, once we're unburdened from stress and resentment and all of the things we're carrying, the first thing that rises is love and affection, just kind of naturally.
Yes.
So I really love that. So to sum up, essentially some kind of meditation plus cultivating love and compassion. Those are the ways to let go.
Yes.
Yeah. And relaxing. You said the word relax about 4 times. So that's
Well,
pretty.
but it's good not only for the mind, but for the body. It sends out really very healing waves of, even if one is, say, suffering at that time and pain, if one does these loving kindnesses and relaxations and letting go type of practices, the body also reciprocates by feeling, one is able to take on the pain without it creating mental torment. I mean, the body might be in pain, but the mind does not have to be in pain.
Yeah. The pain is just raw energy. Yeah. So I wanted to go back to a couple of steps. So you're talking about a near-death experience you had. Was that when the avalanche buried you in the cave, or was there another one?
No, this was when I was a young girl. I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I caught fire.
Oh, that's disturbing.
Yeah, especially because I had a nylon dress on in those days.
Oh,
And so it just went up in complete flame. And fortunately, my mother was, fortunately for me, my mother was in bed with kidney stones. And so I remember running up into her room, and of course I was screaming. And she put out the flames and I think put penicillin. She said my whole back was just burned off. And meantime, I was up on the ceiling looking
mm,
down on my body.
mm,
And all these beings of light were surrounding me,
mm,
saying, "Come with us, come with us." And I thought, oh, I'm going to die. Well,
mm,
that would be interesting. And I mean, I really wanted to go with these beings of light and love. I didn't want to go back into my burned out little body.
mm.
But next thing I knew, the neighbors started coming in because they heard the screams. And I was back in my body again. But the interesting thing is that next thing I remember was being in hospital, lying on a trolley, and a doctor saying to me, "Oh, you're a very brave little girl. You must be in extraordinary pain." And I said, "No, there's no pain." And he looked at me very weirdly, but didn't say anything. The point was, there was no pain. My whole back was burned off inside my face, no pain. I was in hospital for weeks. I have no scars. Many years later, I asked my mother about that. At the time, I was a little girl, so I didn't
Mm,
think about it.
mm,
But years later, I mentioned it to my mother, and we were spiritualists, and we used to have seances at our
mm,
house
mm,
every week. And so she prayed to the spirit guides, and she said, "Please don't let her die. And please don't let her suffer. She's too young to suffer. Give all her pain to me. I
mm,
will take her pain." Perfect Tonglen without
mm.
knowing what Tonglen was. And I think, you know, she was already in agony with her kidney stones, but she would have rejoiced to take on my pain as well. That's a mother for you.
Mm.
And so I think that they said, okay, well, you know, we'll do what we can. And so they didn't give me any pain. They took the pain somehow. And she didn't get it, of course. But her love, her purity of her love, that she would rejoice to take on my suffering, allowed them to help me not to suffer at all.
Mm. Your mother was clearly a very special person.
She was.
Clearly. So, just a quick question. When you were out of body and there were beings of light, did you recognize any of those beings of light or they were
I couldn't see them
right?
insofar as they weren't embodied, but I just knew they were there, just as they were saying, come with us now, come with us. I wasn't a voice, but it was just a message which I was
Feeling.
getting.
Mm, mm.
But all
Yeah.
I was seeing was light,
Yeah.
and a warm light, you know, a warm, loving, sort of welcoming light.
Warm, loving awareness.
And
Yeah.
so naturally, I wanted to go with them rather than go back down to this little burnt out body down there.
Yeah. That's an amazing story. All right. So, um, I was going to share a story of mine, but I don't think I will because I tend not to in public. But I just wonder that those sorts of experiences I've noticed they are often seminal in people who then go off to be spiritual practitioners, to sort of pursue more than an ordinary mundane life, which you have
Yes.
obviously done.
Yeah.
So that almost looks to me like a little bit of a seed of there's more. And then that's been your whole life, finding what else there is other than this illusion we're all bound up in. That's very interesting. I must have heard that story before because it sounded familiar, but at the same time, when you told me it then, it was also fresh to me. I'm not sure.
Uh,
Maybe it was in the book. And
yeah, I mean, I sometimes talk about it when we're giving teachings on Tonglen,
okay, that's probably
because it
why.
was spontaneous Tonglen
Yeah.
from my mother's side that she wanted to take in, all my suffering gladly, but as the Buddha said, just as a mother loves her child, right? I mean, he used that kind of selfless loving as an
Mm.
example of how we should feel towards all beings, of course, not
Yeah.
just towards our children.
Yeah. So I want to pick up on that, the way the Buddha talked about death, and also some like traditional Tibetan metaphor about the bardo, the luminosity in the bardo of dying. So something that's been really important in my practice life is this teaching that the Buddha gave in one of the early sutras, where he said the moment of dying is really a crucial moment, and that if you have right view at that time, I'm really paraphrasing majorly here, but if you have right view at that time, pretty much all's good. And he sort of had already previously established what right view was, understanding of impermanence, emptiness, particularly lack of self, and that kind of stuff. So it seems that the Buddha is saying that um, no matter what our lives really look like, that moment's really important.
Of course.
We can turn everything around at that point if we really put ourselves into it. Do you think that's accurate description?
I think it's so. I mean, as they say, our life is a preparation for death.
Mm.
And so that's why, because at the time of dying, we can't suddenly start doing things which we have never ever done before.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
We should get into the habit of it. And the only way to do that is to do it while we're living, right?
yeah.
And
Mm.
I also like in other religions, the time of death. Usually, like in Christianity, you would have a priest come to pray and give you absolution, and I'm sure in Islam they have their also definitely their rituals which are performed as the person is dying, and in Hinduism, and I think that this is very, very essential. And it's very sad that that is falling away nowadays as people lose faith in faith. And so then at the time of death, they only have the family around saying, oh, don't leave us, don't leave us, which is the last thing you should be saying. You should be saying, we love you and we wish you well on your journey,
Yeah.
not saying, please stay, because you can't. And then you feel bad. And, it's the worst possible mental condition to be in.
Mm.
So the traditional way of, giving absolution and telling people now, Jesus or Krishna or whoever is going to welcome you, it's very important at this moment of transition, whereas we leave our old hotel room and move into a new suite. Or at least at that time, you're not in a new suite, you're still, going around looking.
Mm.
But if we, really, people who are attending on the dying should also tell them not to worry, think of their object of devotion, or think of the light, or think of something. Don't think about your relatives. Don't think about all your possessions you're leaving behind, or let go.
Yeah.
Let go and look beyond the tight grasp of the ego.
Mm. So I want to, um, in the Bardo teachings, there's this little metaphor or analogy where they talk about the mother luminosity when it appears, the white light.
Right.
And they say that it's like a child climbing up into its mother's lap.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so when we think about death in the West, we often, it's just, there's no space for the idea that this might be a wonderful, not just a natural thing, but a wonderful thing, you know. And so, and oftentimes people die completely alone. They're in,
Oh, especially during COVID.
yeah,
Imagine that.
they're in hospitals and it's not visiting hours, so they're all
With
alone.
tubes all over
Yeah,
you,
awful, awful.
up you, down you. Oh,
So people dread it, of course. They have fear and anxiety around it. But that image of a child crawling into its mother's lap, that's really beautiful. And of course,
yeah.
in the West, often people go, I hated my mother. It's like, okay, okay. But it's the idea of the ideal mother who protects you, who is your solace, who will embrace you, who from whom you came. That's one of the reasons why I think the mother is used, because it's from whom you came. We all come from there. So I think that's really beautiful. Do you think there's any way? I mean, sometimes I look at the West and I think there's no way we can get there where people see death. I often say I'm a fanboy of death because it's a beautiful opportunity to be free by embracing the mother luminosity. And people are often really shocked when I say I'm a fanboy of death, that I think it's a good thing, an opportunity. Obviously, we don't want people to die, and death is often full of suffering, and only an idiot would say otherwise. But it is also a profound opportunity. And I just sometimes think, will we ever get there where people see death as a wonderful thing, an opportunity, rather than just something terrible that happens to people and animals, of course?
Well, I think, Pamela, that nowadays more attention is being given to death and dying, and a lot more attention is being given for teaching people to be counselors at the time of death.
Death
Certain
doulas.
And, there's some very good books and articles out there written by people on how to be with people when they are in the dying process. And the idea is now more, even among neuroscientists, that the consciousness does not end at death,
Yeah.
and that actually it does go on. And whereas previously in scientific circles, that was completely a no-no,
Yeah.
because they were so materialistic and we are our body and brain. And now they are rethinking the whole thing. And it's beginning to come out there more and more, the idea that death is just a new beginning. It's not the end. And therefore, we should welcome when it comes and not be afraid. Don't be afraid. Nothing to be afraid of. It's going to be okay. It's going to be probably the most wonderful thing which ever happened.
Yeah.
So why fear?
Yeah. I hope we get there. My
I think
mother.
it will slowly, at least among those who have an interest in any kind of spiritual
Yeah.
thing. That, because somehow or other, probably in time to come, they're going to be able to show more and more. There's so much evidence from near-death experiences. Thousands and thousands of accounts have been collected now. And almost everybody says it was fantastic. They didn't want to come back. And
Yeah.
that it completely changed their whole view, as you were saying, of what life is about and what is important and what is not important. And now they had no fear at all when the next time comes, and they will surely go on into the next life. So I think this not only climate change, but also mental change is happening very rapidly now. I mean, like the idea of, mindfulness and awareness and meditation being standard nowadays.
Yeah, they teach it in hospitals.
Just a while ago, if you mentioned you were meditating, that people would think you were seriously weird. Whereas
Yes.
now they'll probably say, "Oh, what kind of meditation you doing? I've been doing Vipassana. What are you doing?"
Mm.
Um, People that you wouldn't really expect at all to be interested in the mind. Now it's become quite standard.
Yeah.
So things do change, and sometimes for the best.
Yeah. Hopefully. Let's hope. I want to ask a quick
Yeah,
question. I was going to talk about my mum because
please do.
she lost her little dog recently. She passed away, and the grief my mum experienced was quite a shock to me because she's been around Buddhists like me and others, and she's aware of all of um, the Buddhist perspective on death and dying, but still, it seemed to have not penetrated her heart, and so she really went through this intense grief, and it really worried me because I thought, she's fragile, she's 75, she's got a heart condition and a pacemaker and all this stuff, and I really was surprised by how devastating it was. And all I kept saying to her was, try to focus on the little dog who had passed away. She's free of suffering. Like, how is that a bad thing? Try to focus on that rather than on what you've lost. And she really struggled, but eventually was able to do it. But it was a surprise to me that even people who've been around Buddhism a lot, when death strikes, they can really be knocked off their footing, completely like
Yeah.
knocked off their footing. So I think sometimes we need to be a bit more relaxed when we talk about death and talk about it more, I think. Because
Well, because even Tibetans get very upset. I mean, monks and nuns, and even lamas, when especially a close member of their family die, their parent, or even their dog.
mm,
Really, you think, well, but Rinpoche, come on, all these talks on death and dying and,
mm,
letting everything go. What about you?
mm,
Because we're not really, or usually really in charge of our emotions.
mm,
Intellectually, we understand it all and we've got the answers. But there's a level of our emotional life which is not obedient to what the rational mind is telling it,
mm,
right?
yeah.
And it's what is interesting is how much often people are more in grief at the loss of their pet than they might be at the loss of a close member of their family.
Mm. I think I lost a little cat a few years ago. I've always had cats my whole life. And he was 18 or something like that. Like, so he was not a young cat. He was an old cat. He'd been sick for a couple of years. And I was also really surprised by how I felt. I Because I think about death every single day. Um, but I still was the thing that got me was uh I felt that maybe I hadn't done enough. I hadn't done enough. And that surprised me as well. I was like, oh, you should know better.
Yeah,
You should know better. There's no point blaming yourself for what is a natural thing. Like he had seen every vet under the sun and there was nothing more we could do, but still I blamed myself that I had not done
yeah,
it. And I was like, oh, okay. So, and I think there was a big learning there for me about trying to let go control of it. You know, we still, I think I was, you still want to be in control of the death process somehow, and you just
yeah,
can't be. You can't be, so it's a big learning process, death. And I think if we just more open and relaxed about it, it would be great. It'd be really good for me too, because I'm going to lose other people and pets and stuff, and I would like to not blame myself for everything, frankly.
yeah, yeah.
All right, I want to just really quickly the the I want to ask you about your practice because you're talking about while we're alive, let's prepare, right, for dying. So if you could do your whole path again, knowing what know now, is there anything you would change? Is there anything about your path that you would change, or would you do it all exactly the same.
The thing I really regret is that I didn't realize that my Lama was going to die so soon.
Mm,
He died when he was 48, and I had wasted so much time when there were things which I really needed to talk to him about and to be with him with. And I thought we had time and we didn't.
mm.
And that's the only deep regret I have. And there's nothing I can do about it. He went, and that was that. And I'm so grateful that I had the time I had with him. But if I had known that he was going to leave us so soon, there were things which we needed to do, which we never did.
So seize the day, take charge of your
Definitely.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that brings me right back to the other question about what you initially said about at the time of dying. You talked about devotion, opening your heart. So that's something that's really resonates with me because in my life, I've always found that whenever I think of my guru, I always, whatever suffering is happening, it alleviates it for me. And I know that that's not true for everybody, but I just seem to be fortunate. So even when I go to the dentist, I do not like that. Do not like going to the dentist. So because I can't have normal anesthetic because I have a bad reaction to it. So it's quite painful for me. So I always just visualize my guru. And the last time I was there, I tell people this all the time because it's a funny way to explain how important devotion is to me. When I thought of my guru, I just instantly felt joy and I relaxed and I even started to fall asleep. And the dentist had to prod me and go, "Hey, don't go to sleep. You need to be awake for this." So so for me, I know when I'm dying that I will go straight to my guru, think of my guru, and that I will be content and happy and I feel safe. But a lot of people are not fortunate to have that, to have a guru who they trust, who um, who they have that relationship with. And again, my guru passed away in 1987. So the greater majority of my relationship with my guru is through my practice, you know. So I just wonder if there's another, like how to open one's heart at that time if one doesn't have a guru. Like what do we do?
Well, as I said, I mean, if you don't have either a guru or an object of devotion, like the Buddha or Jesus or Muhammad, whoever, Allah, then think of light. And light, not as a cold light, but as a warm, welcoming light, healing light, beautiful, beautiful, vast, open, infinite light, which is the reflection of your true nature, right? We're back to the child light and mother light. But you don't have to think about mothers and children if you have problems.
Problems with your mummy issues?
Just think of it as vast, open, welcoming light in which we can dissolve. Don't. Well, the point is that people should really not think of, attachment at that time to their possessions or their wealth or the people around them. They should think how liberating it is just to let go and go towards the light.
Okay, that's great. All right. Did you want to add anything else? Because wanted to keep this nice and succinct so people can watch, rewatch.
And Pamela, the one thing about life, sure about life is death, as
Yeah.
the Buddha said. And I think that's, the denial of old age, sickness, and death causes so much more pain than actual old age, sickness, and death if it's accepted. And so now, as people are more and more beginning to open up and talk about death, this is a good thing. To recognize it's natural, it happens, we get born. Birth is often much more painful, at least for the mother, than death will be. And our only problem is that we are identified with our bodies. So once we recognize we are not our bodies and we can leave the body behind, but we're going forward into this whole new open expression of our true being. Isn't that wonderful?
I
Really
think so.
wonderful. So let it go, and
Yeah.
go forward.
Yeah. Great. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Jetsunma. I really hope that you have a lovely day.
Thank you. You too, my dear. You too, my
We'll
dear.
talk
And
again
best
soon.
wishes.
Best
Yes,
wishes.
lovely. Thank you for all that you've done for us. Really, Pamela. I am so deeply grateful. Thank you, thank you. And good wishes to all those that you care for, especially, of course, Jamyangla. May
Thank
it
you
all
very
go well
much.
with you all.
Thank you. I just want to say that we love you and we hope that you're well and we hope to talk to you again soon.
Lovely.
Thank you.